A few years ago, I was one of 3 people to make it onto a lifeboat from a sinking ship. It wasn't that I was fastest or that I was at the front of the line. You see, I got voted on to that lifeboat. I had 60 seconds to convince a boat full of strangers why my life was worthy of that last seat on the lifeboat. If you had 60 seconds to make a pitch to literally save your life, what would you say? You know, it is an experience that is burned into my memory. It's a challenge that really required me to do 3 things: discover what was unique and different about me, own it, and then sell why this diversity mattered. Discover, own, and sell. And when I did this, when I was able to discover my unique differentiator and start to speak it out loud, something unexpected happened. People around me started to do the same. It was as if by discovering my unique strengths and talents and having the courage to actually speak them out loud, I had given permission for the people around me to do so as well. So I want to throw out a challenge to you all here this evening. I want to invite you to stop trying so damn hard to be just like everyone else, to fit in, and instead to own your difference. Because when you do, it actually strengthens the connection between everyone and everything around you. You know, I can remember the first time I discovered my unique differentiator in the workplace. It was 2010. I just finished my MBA and had landed my dream job, heading up a marketing department over in Switzerland. And a few weeks into the job, I was just getting my feet wet, but I was feeling kind of uneasy. And I realized I was the youngest, the only woman, the only visible minority, and the only North American on the entire pan-European team. And I didn't really anticipate it, but it was hard. It was so hard. I felt like I was constantly trying to find my footing, trying to find my place on the team, in the role, and in the region. I felt like I was always trying to be who they expected me to be, or who I assumed they wanted me to be. But most days I felt like I was leaving some of myself outside as I walked through the doors going into the office. I was masking, and I didn't even know it. But I'm resilient. I thought, I've moved across to a different continent, I gotta give this a good try. So I persevered, I kept going. And about 6 or 8 months down the road, I will never forget this, I was expanding my team. I'd just finished final round interviews and I'd found my ideal candidate. I'd just given him a verbal job offer and I could see the wheels were turning in his head. So we're packing up our things and he's got 1 foot out the door when he stops, turns to me and says, Tanya, I'll be honest with you. I've got a much better job offer already on the table. In fact, I'm scheduled to jump on a flight, go to New York, and sign the contract next week. So your job offer isn't that impressive. I didn't know where he was going with this at this point. But then he said, but you know what? I'm going to say yes. And here's why. I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm. And I want to work with someone with your level of enthusiasm. Because I think the work that we do will matter, and we'll have more fun along the way. And gosh, I want to have fun at work. So I'm saying yes, and I'm taking your job offer. I was thrilled, not only because my ideal candidate had said yes, but it was the first time I realized that who I was being was as important as what I was doing. who I was being was as important as what I was doing. And someone who knew me for a relatively short amount of time was able to pinpoint the unique value that I brought to the corporate table, to that boardroom table. In that moment, I made a decision. I chose to stop trying to be everything to everyone and instead harness my superpower. I brought that same level of energy and enthusiasm into brainstorming and team meetings. I brought that same level of energy and enthusiasm into client visits when we were trying to land new accounts. I brought that same level of energy and enthusiasm into internal presentations when we were trying to get the resources to take ideas from R&D right through product launch. And you know what? I started to feel like myself again. I started to feel more connected to the work that I was doing and to the people around me. And I was gaining voice and visibility like never before. And my outcomes in each of these areas were better. I was able to bring fresh ideas and new perspectives when I unlocked all of me and brought that girl to work. Your unique value determines your destiny. And the strengths and lessons from the life experience that you have, well, they are the secret sauce to help you perform at an epic level. Now, sometimes it's easy. We can look around at people and we can say, oh, I know her top strengths, her talents. But when we turn the lens to ourselves, sometimes we are full of blind spots, aren't we? So, what's in it for you? Why should you invest the time and energy that it sometimes takes to pinpoint your unique differentiator? Well, turns out there's a lot in it for you. In a recent study done by the Marcus Buckingham Company and Gallup, they found that professionals who were using their strengths every day in the workplace were 38% more likely to be highly productive, 44% more likely to get customer love and higher satisfaction scores, and 50% more likely to feel more connected and engaged, which meant they were retained by their teams and organizations longer. These same people who were using their strengths every day at work also reported 3 times more likely to say that they had an excellent quality of life. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us by using your strengths every day, not only are you going to be a happier and more productive version of yourself, but it's going to have this ripple effect into other areas of your life. But it takes courage to own your difference, especially without the fear of what others may think. And often, there are these unwritten rules or beliefs that hold you back. Sometimes it's cultural beliefs. Maybe you were raised in an environment where humility and modesty are honored, and concepts like showcasing yourself and personal branding seem foreign or even a bit sleazy. Maybe it's gender beliefs that are having an impact on you. Being the only woman in the room, again, wondering how to be seen and heard. Maybe it's life experience, a past failure, losing out on an opportunity, rejection that has left a lasting imprint on you and kind of holds you back every time you want to step forward. So you conform. We conform. In fact, we put so much time, energy, and struggle into trying to be just like everyone else, to blend in, to fit in, that somewhere along the way, we lose ourselves. We lose our identity. And it's costing us today. It's costing us as individuals and as a collective society. So I want to offer you a new way to unmute. And it's actually less about you and more about the people around you. Look at it this way. If you have a unique strength, talent, or lessons from life experience that can positively impact the people around you, and you are keeping it hidden, you are stealing value from people who need it most. It's less about you and more about how you can help solve somebody's problem. Give them those words of wisdom when they need it most, when they are most vulnerable and asking. When you can acknowledge your own diversity, your own difference, you give permission for the people around you to do the same. And maybe it's the young female high school student who dreams of being a computer engineer, or the new immigrant who is courageously looking for funding for his business idea. When you can own your own diversity, you create space for others to as well. And isn't that what Canada's all about? We have this global reputation, don't we? We have this global reputation for being known for welcoming different cultures, ethnicities, and ideas. When we can first accept the diversity in ourselves, we can be more empathetic and accepting of the diversity around us. So if the old norm was to fit in, conform, stay silent, blend in, what if the new norm is to own our diversity? Because when we do, when we can own our story, our talents, our life experience, both public and private, it becomes this gift that we can share with others. And actually a really powerful way to connect with the people around us. There are opportunities to discover, own, and sell your diversity every day. Maybe it's the performance review that you have coming up at the office, or an evening like tonight where you're introducing yourself to strangers at a networking event, or even during a leadership simulation exercise when you've got to convince a classroom of participants of why your life is worthy of the last seat on a lifeboat. How long will you wait? If there's one seat here left on the lifeboat beside me, it has got to be you there. So take the Canadian politeness and chuck it out the window, because there is too much at stake here. Otherwise, you risk going down in a sinking ship and leaving 3 seats empty on a lifeboat. When your moment comes, be ready. Be courageous enough to discover your difference. Own your awesomeness and sell it. Because if you won't, who will?